Ladies and gentlemen, there are things in life that should remain between you and God. We live in a time where people feel the need to share everything, every thought, every struggle, every victory, but wisdom tells us otherwise. Some things are meant to be kept close, protected, and guarded. Number one, your deepest personal struggles. There are burdens in life that no one else can carry for you. There are wounds in the human heart that no one else can fully understand. Every person walking this earth carries struggles, battles fought in silence, tears shed in the dark. The weight of personal struggles is something that can feel unbearable at times, and in our desperation, we often seek comfort in the wrong places. We look for someone to understand, someone to sympathize, someone to tell us it's all going to be okay. But not everyone is meant to hear the details of your pain. Some struggles are not meant to be shared with the world. Some wounds are too deep for human counsel. And some trials are meant to be wrestled through in the presence of God alone. This is a hard truth to accept because we live in a time when sharing everything has become the norm. People post their emotions online. They share their struggles with anyone who will listen. But in doing so, they often invite the wrong kind of attention. They open the door to judgment, to gossip, to advice that leads them further away from healing rather than closer to it. The world is not a safe place for your deepest pain. There are those who will listen, but not everyone listens to help. Some listen out of curiosity, some listen to find fault, and some listen only so they can repeat what you've said behind your back. This is why the Bible warns us to be careful with our words, to be slow to speak and quick to listen. When you share your burdens too freely, you risk placing your heart in the hands of those who will not handle it with care. There's another danger in oversharing your struggles. It can lead to a cycle of seeking validation from people rather than seeking healing from God. When you constantly talk about your problems with others, you may feel temporary relief, but you are not truly being healed. It becomes a pattern where you keep revisiting the same wounds instead of allowing God to bind them up. Some people grow comfortable in their pain because it brings them attention, but attention is not the same as healing. True healing comes when you take your burdens to the only one who can lift them. The Bible tells us to cast our cares upon the Lord, for He cares for us. It does not say to cast them upon every friend, every acquaintance, or every stranger willing to listen. It does not say to cry out to the world for understanding. It says to bring your cares to Him, for He alone can carry them. There is a story in Scripture about Hannah, a woman who was deeply burdened, longing for a child. She was in anguish, and in her pain she did not run to the people around her for comfort. She did not seek their sympathy. She went straight to the house of the Lord. And there she poured out her soul before God. She wept in His presence, so much so that the priests thought she was drunk. But she was not speaking to men. She was speaking to God. And God heard her. That is the kind of faith we are called to have. A faith that does not seek validation from people, but seeks comfort from God. A faith that understands that no matter how deep the pain, no matter how heavy the burden, God is enough. He is the wonderful counselor, the one who knows your heart even when you cannot find the words to explain it. Some struggles are so personal, so intimate, that they are meant to be kept between you and the Lord. This does not mean you should never confide in anyone. God does use people to encourage and uplift, but you must be discerning. Not everyone is meant to hear your story while you are still in the midst of the storm. There are some things you should not share until God has fully healed you from them. There are testimonies that are not meant to be spoken until they are complete. If you speak too soon, you may open yourself up to doubt, criticism, and discouragement from others. Joseph, in the book of Genesis, learned this the hard way. God gave him a dream, a vision of his future, but he shared it too soon. Instead of encouragement, he faced jealousy and betrayal from his own brothers. They could not understand what God was doing in his life, and their response was not to support him but to tear him down. He was thrown into a pit, sold into slavery, and endured years of hardship before the dream God gave him was fulfilled. There is wisdom in silence. There is power in keeping certain struggles between you and God. Some battles are meant to be fought in the secret place, in prayer, in fasting, in seeking His presence. When Jesus was in the Garden of Gethsemane, facing the greatest trial of His life, He did not run to the crowd. He did not share His sorrow with everyone. He went to a quiet place, knelt before His Father, and prayed. Even the disciples, those closest to Him, could not fully comprehend the weight of what He was going through. That is why you must be careful who you share your struggles with. Some people will misunderstand, some will judge, some will offer solutions that are not from God, and some will even rejoice in your suffering. The enemy uses people to plant seeds of doubt, to shake your faith, to make you question if God is truly with you. If you tell the wrong person about your pain, they may lead you further into fear instead of leading you back to faith. But when you take your struggles to God, He will never betray your trust. He will never twist your words or use them against you. He will never respond with judgment or cruelty. He will meet you with mercy. He will comfort you in a way no person ever could. He will remind you that you are not alone, that He is working all things for your good, even when you cannot see it. There is peace in keeping some struggles between you and God. There is strength in seeking Him first before seeking the counsel of others. And there is wisdom in knowing that not everyone is meant to hear the depths of your heart. God knows, God understands, and God is enough. Number 2, your good deeds and charity. When you do something good, when you extend a hand to someone in need, when you give, when you sacrifice, do not do it for the eyes of men. There is a temptation in human nature to seek recognition, to want others to see our good works, to be praised for our kindness, to hear the words, "Look at what they've done." But the moment you seek the approval of men, you lose the reward of heaven. The moment your giving becomes about being seen, it is no longer a pure act of love. It becomes a transaction, an effort to gain something in return, whether that be admiration, gratitude, or validation. God sees what is done in secret. He sees the widow who gives her last 2 coins when no one else notices. He sees the man who feeds the hungry without taking a picture to prove it. He sees the woman who kneels in prayer for others in the quiet of her room where no one applauds her intercession. And it is these unseen acts of goodness that God rewards because they are done out of love, not for attention. The world teaches us to announce our generosity, to let others know when we have done something noble. But the Word of God says the opposite. Jesus spoke clearly about this when He said, "Be careful not to practice your righteousness in front of others to be seen by them. If you do, you will have no reward from your Father in heaven." He warned against those who make a spectacle of their giving, who sound the trumpet before they offer charity, who ensure that others witness their kindness so that they may receive the applause of men. The problem is not in the act of giving itself. The problem is in the heart behind it. Is it given out of genuine love, or is it given for recognition? Is it done in humility, or is it done for personal elevation? The Pharisees in Jesus' day were known for putting on a show of righteousness. They would pray loudly in public places. They would fast in a way that made their suffering visible to others. And they would give to the poor in a manner that drew attention to themselves. But Jesus called them hypocrites. Their outward actions appeared holy, but their motives were corrupt. They did not do these things because they loved God or because they loved people. They did them so that others would admire them and because they sought the praise of men. That was their only reward. They received the approval they longed for, but they forfeited the blessing of heaven. There is something sacred about doing good in secret when no one knows but God. When no one sees but the one who matters most, then your act of kindness remains pure. There is no pride in it, no self-exaltation, no ulterior motive. Only love. That is why Jesus said, "When you give to the needy, do not let your left hand know what your right hand is doing, so that your giving may be in secret. Then your Father who sees what is done in secret will reward you." This world people often give with conditions. They help, but they expect something in return. They donate, but they make sure their name is attached to the gift. They serve, but they want to be acknowledged for their service. And when that recognition does not come, they feel unappreciated, unnoticed, and even bitter. But true generosity seeks nothing in return. It does not demand thanks. It does not require an audience. It does not need validation because its source is love. Look at the life of Jesus. He healed the sick. He fed the hungry. He washed the feet of his disciples. He gave everything, including his life, yet he never did it for attention. In fact, there were times when he performed miracles and told people not to speak of it. He was not concerned with recognition. He was concerned with obedience to the Father. He gave because it was his nature to give. He loved because it was his nature to love. And he never sought the approval of men. When you do good, do not worry about whether people acknowledge it. There will be times when you will help someone and they will not thank you. There will be moments when you will give and no one will recognize the sacrifice you made. There will be times when you will pour yourself out for others and instead of gratitude, you will receive criticism or indifference. But do not let that discourage you. You are not doing it for them. You are doing it for God, and He sees. He sees every act of love, every sacrifice, every moment of service, even when no one else does. There is a great danger in seeking the approval of men. The applause of people is temporary. One day they will praise you, and the next day they will forget you. If you build your life on the recognition of others, you will always be chasing after something that does not last. But when you live for the approval of God, when you give and serve and love without seeking attention, you are storing up treasures in heaven where no thief can steal, no rust can destroy, and no applause is needed. Think of those who give but expect something in return. Think of those who serve, but only if there is a reward attached. Think of those who do good only when there is an audience watching. Their kindness is not real kindness, it is a performance. Their generosity is not true generosity, it is a strategy for self-promotion. And though they may gain recognition in this life, they lose the far greater reward that comes from God. And when they do that, give rather than receive. It becomes from God. The Bible tells us that God loves a cheerful giver, but a cheerful giver is not one who gives reluctantly, nor is it one who gives for show. A cheerful giver is one who gives out of joy, out of love, out of a heart that desires to bless others simply because it is the right thing to do. There is freedom in that kind of giving. Freedom in knowing that you are not bound by the need for human approval. Freedom in knowing that God is the one who rewards in ways far greater than man ever could. When you help the poor, do not seek attention. When you serve others, do not wait for praise. When you give, give because you love, not because you want something in return. And when no one notices, when no one thanks you, when no one acknowledges what you have done, remember this: God sees, and that is enough. Things number 3, your future plans in detail. Not everyone needs to know the plans God has placed in your heart. Not everyone will understand your vision, and not everyone will celebrate what God is doing in your life. Some will doubt you, some will discourage you, and some will even try to stop you. That is why you must be careful with what you share and who you share it with. The dreams and plans that God has given you are precious, and they must be guarded. There's a story in the Bible about a young man named Joseph. God gave him dreams of his future, dreams that showed him rising to a place of great authority. But Joseph made a mistake. He shared those dreams too soon. He told his brothers about them, and instead of rejoicing with him, they became jealous. Instead of supporting him, they hated him. Their jealousy grew until it consumed them, and they plotted against him. They threw him into a pit, sold him into slavery, and thought they had destroyed his future. Joseph had a great calling on his life, but because he spoke too soon, he faced betrayal from those closest to him. Not everyone can handle what God is doing in your life. Some people will smile to your face but secretly hope you fail. Some will pretend to support you, but inside they are envious. Others may not mean harm, but they will speak words of doubt, discouraging you from stepping into what God has for you. If you listen to them, if you allow their negativity to take root in your heart, you may begin to doubt yourself. You may start to question whether you really heard from God. You may hesitate when you should move forward, and you may delay what God has called you to do. There is wisdom in moving in silence. When Nehemiah set out to rebuild the walls of Jerusalem, he did not announce his plans to everyone. He inspected the city at night when no one was watching. He did not reveal his strategy until the time was right. Why? Because he knew that there would be opposition. He knew that there would be those who would try to stop the work. And when the opposition came, it came fiercely. There were people who mocked him, people who threatened him, people who tried to intimidate him into quitting. But because Nehemiah had been wise from the beginning, because he had guarded his plans and sought God's guidance, he was able to complete the work despite the attacks. When God gives you a vision, he does not always give it to those around you. He spoke to Noah about the flood, but the people around him did not believe. He called Abraham to a new land, but Abraham had to leave behind everything familiar to follow God's plan. He anointed David to be king, but David spent years running from Saul before he ever sat on the throne. In every case, the calling was real, but the journey required faith, patience, and wisdom. If you share your plans too soon, you may invite unnecessary battles. The enemy listens when you speak. He cannot read your mind, but he can hear your words. When you declare your dreams openly, you make yourself a target. The opposition will come, and if you are not prepared, it can shake your faith. That is why some things must remain between you and God until the right time. Silence is not secrecy, it is wisdom. When a farmer plants a seed, he does not dig it up every day to show others that it is growing. He leaves it buried, allowing it to take root in the dark. If he exposes it too soon, it will die before it has the chance to bear fruit. Your plans, your vision, your calling, they are like seed. They need time to grow before they can be revealed. Some people share their plans because they are excited. They want others to know what God is doing in their life. But excitement must be tempered with wisdom. Even Jesus understood this. There were times when he performed miracles and told people not to speak about them. He knew that not everyone was ready to hear, and he knew that premature exposure could bring opposition before the appointed time. There is a time for everything. A time to speak and a time to be silent. A time to act and a time to wait. When God gives you a plan, seek His timing. Ask Him when to move and when to remain still. Do not rush ahead because of impatience. Do not seek approval from people when you already have the approval of God. And do not feel the need to explain yourself to those who will never understand. Some will question your path. They will ask why you are doing what you are doing. They will not see what you see, but that is because God did not give them the vision. He gave it to you. You do not need their permission to follow God's will. You do not need their understanding to obey His voice. When God called Moses to lead Israel out of Egypt, there were many who doubted Him. There were those who complained, those who resisted, those who wanted to turn back. But Moses did not need their approval. He needed only to obey the one who sent him. Be careful who you allow to speak into your life. Some voices will strengthen your faith, but others will plant seeds of doubt. Some will push you closer to your calling, but others will pull you away. Do not share your plans with those who do not have the faith to believe with you. Do not seek encouragement from those who do not understand what God is doing in your life. Surround yourself with those who walk by faith, not by sight. And above all, keep your eyes on the one who called you. When the time is right, God will reveal what He has been doing in the hidden places. When Joseph was thrown into the pit, when he was sold into slavery, when he was falsely accused and imprisoned, it seemed like his dreams had been destroyed. But what others meant for evil, God used for good. When the appointed time came, Joseph was lifted out of the prison and placed in a position of power. And the very brothers who betrayed him had to come before him in need. If Joseph had allowed their jealousy to stop him, he would have never reached the palace. If he had doubted the dreams God gave him, he would have never fulfilled his purpose. But he trusted God, and in the end, everything happened just as God had shown him. You do not need to announce what God is doing in your life. You do not need to prove anything to anyone. You do not need to explain yourself to those who doubt you. The vision God has given you will speak for itself in time. Trust Him, move in wisdom, and let Him bring it to pass in His perfect timing. Things number 4, your private conversations with God. There are some things that should remain between you and God alone. Your private conversations with Him, your prayers, your deepest thoughts, your struggles, your hopes, your fears. These are sacred moments that do not need to be shared with the world. In a time when people feel the need to announce everything, when personal experiences are broadcasted for all to see, there is something powerful about having a relationship with God that is not put on display for others. Prayer is not a performance. It is not meant to be a public demonstration of spirituality. It is an intimate exchange between you and your Creator, a direct line of communication that no one else needs to hear. Jesus Himself warned against those who pray for the sake of being seen. He spoke of those who stand on the street corners lifting their voices, not because they long for God, but because they long for the attention of people. They want to be admired for their devotion. They want others to see them as holy. But Jesus said that those who pray in such a way have already received their reward, the praise of men. True prayer happens in the secret place. Jesus said, when you pray, go into your room, close the door, and pray to your Father who is unseen. Then your Father who sees what is done in secret will reward you. There is something profound about meeting God in the quiet, away from distractions, away from the noise of the world, away from the opinions of others. In that place, you can be honest. You can pour out your heart without fear of judgment. You can lay your burdens before Him, knowing that He listens. They are prayers that no one else will ever hear. Prayers whispered in the middle of the night when sleep will not come. Prayers cried out in moments of desperation when there's no one else to turn to. Prayers offered in silence when words fail, but the heart still speaks. These are the prayers that shape a person's faith. These are the prayers that draw a soul closer to God. Not every prayer needs to be spoken aloud. God hears what is unspoken. He knows the thoughts before they are formed, the words before they are uttered, the cries of the heart before they are given a voice. Sometimes the most powerful prayers are the ones that never leave the lips, the silent prayers of a weary soul, the quiet surrender of a heart in need of God's presence. There is a reason Jesus often withdrew to solitary places to pray. Even though He was surrounded by people, even though He was constantly teaching, healing, and ministering to others, He knew the importance of being alone with the Father. He would rise early in the morning before the world awakened. He would go to the mountains, to the wilderness, to the quiet places where He could speak with God without interruption. That Jesus, the Son of God, needed that private time with the Father, how much more do we? There is nothing wrong with praying with others. There is power in agreement. There is strength in coming together as a community of faith. But there are some prayers that are meant for you and God alone. There are some struggles that are too personal to be shared with anyone else. There are some confessions that only He needs to hear. People will not always understand your prayers. If you share too much, some will judge, some will criticize, and some will offer opinions that do more harm than good. Others may take what you share and use it against you. That is why wisdom is needed. That is why discernment is necessary. Not every conversation with God needs to be spoken of. Some things should remain between you and Him, guarded and protected from the influence of others. Think of Hannah, the mother of Samuel. She prayed in such deep anguish that the priest Eli thought she was drunk. But she was not speaking to man. She was speaking to God from the depths of her soul. He poured out her heart, weeping before Him, making a vow that no one else could understand. And God heard her. He answered her. He honored her private prayer. And through her, a great prophet was born. Think of David, the man after God's own heart. His prayers were raw, unfiltered, filled with emotion. He spoke of his fears, his failures, his longings, his love for God. Many of his prayers were recorded in the Psalms, but there were countless more that no one ever heard. There were moments when he was alone in the fields as a shepherd, singing to God with no one but the sheep to listen. There were times when he fled for his life, crying out to God in the caves when no one could hear. These were the prayers that sustained him. These were the prayers that deepened his faith. There is something about praying in solitude, something about having that personal connection with God that does not need to be shared or explained. Some of the most powerful moments with God happen in the quiet. It is in those moments that He speaks. It is in those moments that He strengthens, heals, restores, and gives direction. The world encourages people to speak, to share, to let others in on every aspect of their lives. But God calls His people to a different standard. There is a beauty in secrecy. There is a sacredness in private devotion. There is a strength that comes from knowing that your relationship with God is not dependent on public displays or the approval of others. When you have a secret history with God, when you have a private prayer life that is not for show, you develop a faith that cannot be shaken. You are not swayed by the opinions of people. You do not seek validation from others. You do not need applause for your devotion, because you know that God sees, you know that He hears, and you know that what happens in the secret place will be rewarded in ways far greater than human recognition. Some of the greatest moves of God begin in hidden places. Some of the most powerful testimonies are birthed in moments of private surrender. Some of the deepest transformations happen when no one is watching. This is why your private conversations with God matter. This is why your secret prayers are so important. They are the foundation of your faith. They are the lifeline of your spiritual journey. They are the moments that shape your destiny. Do not feel the need to share everything God is doing in your life. Do not feel pressure to make your prayers public. Guard your intimacy with Him. Treasure the moments that are just between you and your Father. Seek Him in the quiet, in the stillness, in the hidden places where only He can hear, because in those moments, He is near. In those moments, He speaks. In those moments, He moves in ways that no one else may see, but that will change your life forever. Your relationship with God is personal, it is sacred, it is not meant to be displayed for the approval of others, nor is it meant to be explained to those who may not understand. Some things must remain between you and Him. Your struggles, your prayers, your sacrifices, your dreams. What you share with God in secret is the foundation of your faith, the place where your trust in Him is built and strengthened. When you guard your private moments with God, you allow Him to shape you without interference. You give Him space to work in your heart, to speak to you, to refine you. The world may push for recognition, but God honors those who seek Him in humility and secrecy. The most powerful prayers are not always the loudest, and the most profound encounters with God often happen in the quiet places. Trust that what is spoken in secret will be answered in time. Trust that what is sown in private devotion will bear fruit in due season. And trust that the God who hears in the secret place is faithful to fulfill His promises. Walk with Him, seek Him, and cherish the moments that belong to you and Him alone. There are things you may be holding on to right now that are quietly opening the door to darkness in your life. The Bible tells us to have nothing to do with the fruitless deeds of darkness, but rather expose them. Ephesians 5:11. If you want to walk in the fullness of God's protection and blessing, you must cleanse your home from anything that invites the enemy in. Here are 7 demonic items that you must remove immediately. Item number 1, occult objects. Occult objects may seem harmless to some, often marketed as tools for self-discovery, entertainment, or spiritual enlightenment. But make no mistake, these items serve as doorways to forces far beyond human understanding. When you bring them into your home, you are inviting in something that does not belong in the life of a believer. These objects have been used for centuries to channel spirits, predict the future, or manipulate unseen forces. Many do not realize that behind these practices lies a spiritual deception designed to pull people away from God. The Bible is clear about God's stance on the occult. In Deuteronomy 18:10-12, it warns against divination, sorcery, interpreting omens, engaging in witchcraft, and consulting with spirits. The reason is simple. When you seek power, knowledge, or guidance from any source other than God, you are stepping into dangerous territory. Occult practices operate outside the will of the Lord, and they come with consequences. Many who have dabbled in these things have found themselves tormented, experiencing fear, oppression, or unexplained disturbances in their homes. One of the most common occult objects is the Ouija board. It is often seen as just a game, but there is nothing playful about opening a gateway to the unknown. Countless stories exist of people who have used this bored, thinking they were speaking to lost loved ones or harmless spirits, only to be met with terrifying encounters. Evil spirits do not introduce themselves with red eyes and horns. They masquerade as innocent voices, offering wisdom, comfort, or curiosity. The moment you engage, the moment you seek answers outside of God's Word, you have given permission for something dark to enter. Tarot cards are another dangerous tool. Many keep them in their homes without realizing the spiritual implications. These cards are not just random illustrations. They are designed to predict the future, reveal hidden truths, and provide insight from unknown sources. But who is truly behind this information? The Bible tells us that Satan himself masquerades as an angel of light. The enemy will use whatever means necessary to lead people away from the truth. Tarot readings may seem accurate at first, but they pull individuals deeper into reliance on spiritual forces that do not align with God's kingdom. Crystals, pendulums, and other objects used for divination or energy healing fall into the same category. While some believe these items hold natural energy or vibrations, they are often used in practices that contradict Scripture. Many New Age teachings encourage people to seek balance, protection, or healing through these objects rather than turning to the Lord. When people place their faith in an object to bring peace, love, or wisdom, they are replacing God with a counterfeit source of power. The danger is not in the object itself, but in what it represents and the spiritual doors it may open. Witchcraft materials such as spell books, charms, and talismans are also extremely dangerous to keep in your home. Some believe they can use these items for good to manifest love, protection, or success, but Scripture makes no distinction between good and bad magic. Any attempt to manipulate the spiritual realm, apart from God's authority, is a rebellion against Him. These objects may be passed down from family members or given as gifts, but their origin does not change their nature. They are rooted in deception, and the only way to truly break free from their influence is to remove them completely. Many people bring occult objects into their homes out of ignorance, unaware of their deeper spiritual significance. Some may collect these items out of fascination, seeing them as pieces of art, history, or culture. But the enemy does not care why they are in your possession. He only cares that they are there. The presence of these objects can lead to unexplained fear, anxiety, or a sense of oppression that lingers in the atmosphere of a home. Some experience nightmares, disturbances, or a constant feeling of unease without realizing that the root cause is sitting on a shelf or hidden in a drawer. If you find yourself drawn to these things, ask yourself why. Is it curiosity? Is it a desire for control over the unknown? Is it a fascination with supernatural power? The enemy preys on these desires, offering quick answers and temporary excitement, while leading people further from the truth. True power, true wisdom, and true peace can only be found in God. If there is anything in your home tied to the occult, no matter how small, it is time to remove it completely. Item number 2, cursed or ritualistic artifacts. Cursed or ritualistic artifacts are often brought into homes without people realizing the spiritual weight they carry. Many of these objects originate from pagan ceremonies, occult practices, or cultural traditions that are deeply rooted in false spiritual beliefs. They may be statues, masks, jewelry, or even simple trinkets. Yet their presence can have a profound effect on the spiritual atmosphere of a home. People often receive these items as gifts, purchase them as souvenirs, or inherit them from relatives, unaware of the rituals or ceremonies that may have been performed over them. But just because something appears harmless does not mean it is without consequence. Throughout history, cultures around the world have created objects used in spiritual rituals, idol worship, or protection spells. These artifacts are often crafted with the intent of summoning spirits, channeling supernatural forces, or invoking blessings from false gods. What many fail to understand is that these practices do not operate in a neutral spiritual space. Any object that has been dedicated to another deity, used in witchcraft, or connected to spiritual ceremonies outside of God's truth, carries an attachment to the realm from which it came. When these objects enter a home, they bring that same spiritual influence with them. Some of the most dangerous objects are those that have been deliberately cursed or dedicated in rituals. In many occult traditions, practitioners infuse objects with spiritual energy, calling upon demonic forces to empower them. These can include voodoo dolls, talismans, amulets, and even everyday household items that have been used in dark practices. Some of these objects are created with the specific intention of bringing harm, while others are meant to offer protection. But make no mistake, any power that does not come from God ultimately comes from a source that is in rebellion against Him. Even objects meant to bring good luck or ward off evil can be an open door to spiritual deception. One of the most overlooked sources of cursed artifacts comes from statues and images of false gods. Many people display these in their homes as decorations, cultural symbols, or collector's items, believing them to be harmless. But the Bible is clear about the danger of idols. In Exodus 20:3-5, God commands His people to have no other gods before Him and to not make or worship graven images. These idols represent spiritual entities that have been worshipped for generations, and they carry with them the spiritual residue of those who have bowed before them. Whether it is a small figurine, an ancient relic, or a modern piece of art, if it represents a false god, it does not belong in the home of a believer. Another common example of cursed or ritualistic artifacts is tribal or indigenous masks used in spiritual ceremonies. Many of these masks were originally crafted for rituals involving ancestor worship, spirit summoning, or protection rites. People purchased them as souvenirs from different parts of the world, unaware that they may have been used in ceremonies invoking spirits. The same applies to certain types of jewelry, especially those featuring occult symbols, astrological signs, or charms believed to bring supernatural benefits. Even if these items are worn with no intention of engaging in spiritual practices, their origins and past uses matter. Occasionally, people experience strange occurrences after bringing such objects into their homes. Some report an unshakable feeling of unease, disturbing dreams, or unexplained disturbances, such as objects moving, lights flickering, or sudden changes in mood or atmosphere. While skeptics may dismiss these experiences as coincidence, those who understand the spiritual realm know that demonic forces can attach themselves to objects. When an artifact has been used in occult practices, it does not simply lose its spiritual significance when it changes ownership. Even second-hand furniture, paintings, or antiques can carry a history that affects the environment of a home. Many objects have been in the possession of people who engaged in dark spiritual practices, and those connections do not simply vanish when the item is sold or given away. This is why spiritual discernment is crucial when bringing anything into a home. It is not about superstition or fear. It is about recognizing that the spiritual realm is real, and that certain objects carry the weight of the rituals and intentions placed upon them. Item number 3, dark entertainment. Dark entertainment is one of the most overlooked ways the enemy gains access to people's lives. Many believe that what they watch, listen to, and read is simply a matter of personal preference, having no real impact on their spiritual condition. But the Bible warns that the eyes and ears are gateways to the soul. What a person consumes on a regular basis shapes their thoughts, influences their emotions, and ultimately determines the atmosphere of their home. Entertainment that glorifies evil, promotes fear, or celebrates rebellion against God is not neutral. It carries a spiritual influence that can weaken faith, distort truth, and invite darkness into a person's life. Horror movies are one of the most obvious examples of dark entertainment. Many are filled with demonic imagery, supernatural terror, and portrayals of possession, curses, and rituals. Some are even inspired by real occult practices designed to make evil seem powerful and unavoidable. People often watch these films for the thrill, believing they are harmless, but they do not realize the long-term effects on their minds and spirits. Fear is not just an emotion, it is a tool of the enemy. And when people willingly expose themselves to terrifying images and sounds, they are opening a door to anxiety, nightmares, and spiritual oppression. The more they consume, the more desensitized they become to the reality of evil. Beyond horror films, many mainstream movies and television shows are filled with occult themes, violence, and perverse content. Shows that depict witchcraft, sorcery, and demonic activity often present these practices as exciting, normal, or even heroic. They introduce audiences to spells, rituals, and supernatural powers that are presented as fiction, but are often rooted in real spiritual concepts. Over time, these ideas become ingrained in the minds of viewers, making them more accepting of practices that the Bible strictly forbids. The enemy works subtly, disguising darkness as entertainment so that people let their guard down and unknowingly invite destructive influences into their homes. Music is another powerful medium through which dark entertainment spreads its influence. Many popular songs contain lyrics that promote rebellion, lust, violence, or even direct worship of evil. Some artists openly admit to being influenced by spirits, channeling dark forces in their creative process. Music is spiritual by nature. It has the power to uplift, inspire, and bring people into the presence of God, but it can also pull them into darkness. When someone constantly listens to songs that glorify sin, their mind and heart become conditioned to accept and even desire the things being promoted. The words and beats they absorb begin to shape their thoughts, their attitudes, and their outlook on life. Books, comics, and graphic novels also play a major role in spreading dark themes. Many works of fiction romanticize the occult, making sorcery, necromancy, and demonic power seem attractive and beneficial. They draw readers into worlds where good and evil are blurred, where darkness is not something to be rejected but embraced. Some books go even further, providing detailed descriptions of real-life spells, rituals, and incantations, leading curious readers deeper into spiritual deception. People often underestimate the power of the written word, but what they fill their minds with will eventually shape their beliefs and behaviors. Video games have also become a major source of dark entertainment. Many games revolve around themes of death, destruction, and demonic warfare, allowing players to engage in violent, sinful, or occult activities as part of the gameplay. Some games even include actual satanic symbols, blood rituals, or direct interactions with spirits and dark forces. When people spend hours immersed in these virtual worlds, they become spiritually dull to the reality of what they are engaging with. What starts as a harmless pastime can become an open invitation for destructive influences to take root in their thoughts and emotions. Even social media has become a breeding ground for dark entertainment, with instant access to millions of videos, images, and discussions. People are constantly exposed to content that glorifies darkness. From viral challenges that promote dangerous behaviors to influencers who openly practice witchcraft and encourage others to do the same. The digital world is filled with hidden traps designed to pull people away from truth. The more time people spend consuming these things, the more their minds are shaped by the messages being pushed into their subconscious. What people entertain themselves with is never just about amusement. It either draws them closer to God or pulls them away. When homes are filled with entertainment that promotes darkness, fear, and rebellion, the spiritual atmosphere shifts. Peace is replaced with unrest, faith is replaced with doubt, and the presence of God is gradually pushed out. The choices people make about what they allow into their homes and minds determine the kind of spiritual environment they create around them. Item number 4, New Age and mystic symbols. New Age and mystic symbols have become deeply embedded in modern culture, often seen in fashion, jewelry, home decor, and even self-help practices. Many people embrace these symbols without understanding their true spiritual significance. They assume they are harmless, aesthetic, or even beneficial for personal growth and enlightenment. But these symbols are far more than artistic designs or cultural relics. They carry deep spiritual meanings that can invite deception and open doors to forces opposed to God. The New Age movement promotes a blend of Eastern mysticism, occult practices, and self-deification, all under the guise of self-discovery and spiritual enlightenment. It teaches that truth is subjective, that divine power is found within, and that all religions lead to the same destination. At its core, it denies the authority of God, replacing him with a belief in human potential, universal energy, and unseen cosmic forces. Many of its symbols reflect these ideas, representing a counterfeit spirituality that subtly draws people away from biblical truth. One of the most recognized symbols in the New Age movement is the all-seeing eye, often depicted within a triangle. This symbol has long been associated with secret societies and mystical teachings, representing enlightenment, hidden knowledge, and divine consciousness. While some believe it represents wisdom, in reality it is rooted in occult traditions that promote a belief in spiritual awakening apart from God. People wear it as jewelry or display it in their homes, unaware that it signifies an invitation to supernatural forces outside of God's authority. The yin-yang symbol is another common representation found in homes, clothing, and accessories. It originates from Taoism and is meant to depict the balance of opposing forces, light and dark, good and evil, male and female. This philosophy suggests that good and evil are interconnected, rather than recognizing that evil is the result of sin and separation from God. The Bible makes it clear that righteousness and wickedness do not exist in balance, but in opposition. Light does not coexist with darkness. It overcomes it. The acceptance of yin-yang thinking conditions people to see evil as a necessary force, rather than something to reject and overcome through faith. Crystals have also become a significant part of New Age symbolism. While God created crystals as beautiful parts of nature, they have been repurposed in spiritual practices as conduits of healing energy and personal transformation. Many believe that different stones hold vibrations or properties that can cleanse negative energy, attract love, or bring success. This belief shifts reliance away from God and onto created objects, making them substitutes for faith in His power and provision. The use of crystals in meditation, energy healing, or manifestation rituals is a direct participation in spiritual deception, leading people away from trusting in God's will. Another symbol deeply connected to New Age mysticism is the mandala, a geometric pattern used in meditation and spiritual visualization. Many use mandalas in yoga practices or as decorations in their homes, unaware that they originate from Hindu and Buddhist traditions meant to aid in reaching altered states of consciousness. These intricate designs are often associated with summoning spirits, channeling cosmic energy, or achieving oneness with the universe. While they are marketed as tools for relaxation and focus, their original purpose is to open the mind to spiritual influences that contradict God's truth. Astrological symbols also play a major role in New Age belief systems. Zodiac signs, planetary symbols, and birth charts are used to interpret personality traits, predict future events, and seek guidance from celestial forces. Many people casually follow astrology, reading daily horoscopes or identifying with their star signs, thinking of it as harmless entertainment. But the Bible explicitly warns against divination and seeking knowledge from the stars. Astrology promotes the idea that a person's fate is written in the cosmos rather than in God's sovereign plan. It places trust in created things rather than in the Creator, leading people away from dependence on Him. The pentagram is another powerful symbol with deep occult connections. While some argue that the five-pointed star is a neutral or even positive symbol, it has long been used in witchcraft, satanic rituals, and occult ceremonies. When displayed with one point facing upward, it is associated with invoking supernatural forces. When inverted with 2 points facing upward, it is often linked to Satanism, symbolizing rebellion against God. Many people wear pentagram jewelry, use it in home decor, or encounter it in media without realizing its association with dark spiritual practices. Even seemingly innocent symbols, like the peace sign or dream catchers, have roots in mystical and spiritual traditions. Dream catchers, for example, originate from Native American shamanism, designed to filter dreams and capture negative spirits. While many see them as decorative or sentimental, they carry spiritual meanings that do not align with biblical truth. The peace sign, which became popular during the 1960 counterculture movement, has historical connections to anti-Christian symbolism and rebellion against divine authority. These symbols, whether worn as jewelry, displayed in homes, or used in personal practices, influence the spiritual atmosphere of an environment. Many people do not realize that objects with occult or mystical origins can serve as spiritual gateways, attracting unseen forces into their lives. They may dismiss their significance, believing that intention is all that matters. But throughout history, symbols have carried power, representing ideologies, beliefs, and spiritual allegiance. When a home is filled with New Age and mystic symbols, it creates an atmosphere that is not aligned with God's presence. The deception is subtle, yet its effects are real, leading people further into confusion, idolatry, and spiritual vulnerability. Item number 5. Objects from sinful or corrupt sources. Objects from sinful or corrupt sources carry a spiritual weight that many people fail to recognize. They may seem ordinary on the surface, but their origins and past use can bring unseen consequences into a home. Throughout history, certain objects have been tied to sinful activities, wicked intentions, and ungodly practices. When these items are kept in a household, they can serve as reminders of sin, open doors to spiritual oppression, or create an atmosphere that is not aligned with God's holiness. The Bible repeatedly warns about the dangers of associating with things that have been dedicated to corruption. Yet many people unknowingly bring such objects into their lives. One of the most common categories of corrupt objects includes items tied to sexual immorality. These can include explicit materials, inappropriate artwork, or even clothing associated with a past of impurity. Many people hold on to gifts from past relationships, souvenirs from ungodly experiences, or objects linked to a life they have left behind. These items may seem insignificant, but they carry memories and spiritual connections that can affect a person's mindset and emotion. Keeping objects that were once part of sinful activities can subtly draw a person back into old temptations, stirring desires and thoughts that should have been left behind. The enemy works through memories, using tangible reminders to bring past sins into the present, creating a cycle of struggle and guilt. Another form of corrupt objects comes from items that have been stolen or acquired through dishonest means. Many people hold on to things that were taken unlawfully, whether intentionally or unknowingly. This can include items shoplifted in the past, possessions obtained through deceitful business dealings, or even things given by someone who acquired them through sin. Even if years have passed, keeping stolen items can create an invisible spiritual burden, keeping a person connected to the wrongdoing of the past. God calls His people to walk in integrity, and part of that includes removing anything in their possession that was not obtained in righteousness. Objects used in violent acts or criminal activities also bring spiritual consequences. Weapons used in crimes, personal belongings of those involved in wicked deeds, or items taken from places where great harm was committed can all carry a dark presence. People sometimes collect memorabilia related to violence, war, or tragic events, thinking of them as historical artifacts or sentimental keepsakes. However, these objects can serve as links to the spirits of destruction, fear, and death. Surrounding oneself with items connected to violence can subtly influence emotions, leading to unrest, anger, or a heavy spiritual atmosphere in a home. Gifts from people who practice witchcraft, sorcery, or any form of dark spirituality can also bring a spiritual presence into a home. Some objects are given with good intentions, while others are knowingly cursed or dedicated to dark purposes before being handed over. Even if the giver did not consciously attach any rituals to the object, items from individuals involved in occult practices can carry a residual spiritual connection. Jewelry, clothing, books, and even household decorations received from such people should be examined carefully. Many believers have experienced unexplained disturbances in their homes, only to discover that certain objects were the source of the disruption. Music, books, and movies that glorify sin also serve as corrupt influences. Some people keep collections of media that once fueled their sinful lifestyles, believing they are harmless now that they no longer actively engage with them. However, even if an object is not being used, its presence can affect the spiritual atmosphere of a home. Many books contain explicit content, occult teachings, or philosophies that contradict God's truth. Music with lyrics that promote lust, rebellion, or darkness can create an environment where negative spiritual influences thrive. Movies filled with blasphemy, perversion, and wickedness can leave lasting impressions on the mind, normalizing sin and desensitizing the soul to holiness.